Yo, what is up guys? My name is Patrick, host of EDH Brutality, and welcome back to another video here in this channel. Are you looking to push past the time constraints for next Friday Night Magic? Well, look no further, because today we have a deck that does just that in the Art of Defense. Let's get into it. Welcome back, folks. Welcome back to the channel. Before we jump right into today's video, let me just say happy Easter to all. And as always, timestamps along with the deck list will be linked down in the description below. So without further ado, let me teach you a little about the Art of Defense with Angus Mackenzie. Making his debut in June of 1994, Angus Mackenzie is a 2/2 summon legend Bant creature with a tap ability of Bant once again, which is white, blue, and green. It says tap and creatures attack and block as normal, but none deal any damage during combat. All attacking creatures are still tapped. Use his ability anytime before attack damage is dealt. So what does he do? He is essentially a fog on a creature. And naturally, as soon as I saw this as a legendary creature, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to build a deck around it. And I didn't just stop there. I built my own playmat. It's so freaking cool. But before we waste any more of your time today, let me tell you why you may love or hate this deck. Beginning with the hate. You are really not going to enjoy this deck if you enjoy faster games, you love being aggro, and you dislike being the public enemy of the table, not to mention if you have some sort of budget. This is not one of those channels. We pull no punches here at EDH Brutality for all things metal and magic. If we're gonna do it, we are gonna do it right. However, with the bad, there must be some upside, and that has to be the pros of this deck. You will really enjoy Beef Tenderloin, Strength Through Weakness, and yes, that is the name of the deck. If you enjoy those longer games in dictating the flow and pace of the game, you enjoy complex puzzles, creating some sort of an engine, and drawing lots of cards all while playing a unique commander that not many people have even seen before. So with all that out of the way, what this deck aims to be and what it does, we're going to be leaning heavily into the play type known as Pillowfort in Magic the Gathering. Now, for those of you that don't know what a Pillowfort is, essentially we're going to be building an impenetrable defense that is so futile to go up against. Our opponents will have no other choice but to attack and slaughter everyone else around your pod as we sit back, relax, and just enjoy watching the spectacle. Now, although the Pillowfort strategy is straightforward, I can assure you this deck tech is quite sinister by nature. So if you're interested in looking for something unique and different in what I honestly believe is one of, if not the best Pillowfort brew I have seen to date, then I definitely recommend watch until the end of this video and enjoy the ride known as Beef Tenderloin, Strength Through Weakness. Let's get into it. Being a Pillowfort deck, we must talk about the ways we can defend ourselves from that early onset damage to prevent ourselves from being knocked out of the game before we can really get going. Paired with 3 mana enchantments known as Ghostly Prison and Propaganda, these enchantments read: creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 mana for each creature he or she controls that is attacking you. If you have both these bad boys on board, it's going to cost 4 mana to attack with a single creature, but only you. So it doesn't prevent your enemies from hitting each other, it just prevents you from dying. Speaking of taxes, we have a very similar effect on Windborn Muse. For 3 colors and 1 white, this 2/3 flying spirit creature says creatures can attack unless their controller pays 2 mana for each creature they control that's attacking you. Once again, we're doubling the redundancy that's already brought with Ghostly Prison and Propaganda. If you have these 3 out, it costs 6 mana. And most of all, if we want further tax, we can always play Collective Restraint. Once again, 4 mana enchantment that says creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays X for each creature attacking you, where X is the number of basic land types among lands you control. So being in Bant, which is white, blue, and green, we can have an island, a forest, and a plains in play. That means they're going to have to pay an additional 3 mana per creature. You have all 3 of these bad boys out, and it's going to cost them 9 mana. And of course, if you want to get political while we're talking about taxation, we can always play War Tax, a 2 colors and 1 blue enchantment that says pay X and 1 blue, and creatures can't attack this turn unless their controller pays X for each attacking creature. So yeah, that's a lot of damn taxes. If we have All of these in play, we're not getting touched. And the best part about it is it doesn't stop our opponents from touching each other. That sounds really fucking wrong. For better defense, we have enchantments such as Dueling Grounds. It says no more than one creature may attack each turn and no more than one creature may block each turn. This is a great way to shut down your opponents from swinging and killing everyone too fast where they can put all their efforts on you. Of course, if you tax them to oblivion, their efforts are going to be directed towards you anyways, so be wary with the cards you play. If you want to completely avoid all attacks altogether, we can always drop down a Peacekeeper, a great 3 mana hate bear that states during your upkeep pay 1 white and 1 colorless or bury Peacekeeper. That doesn't matter because the payoff is too great and it simply just says creatures cannot attack. I don't know what the hell this guy does or who he thinks he is, but whatever he is, he's pretty dang important for our brew. So good job, Peacekeeper, and good job, horse in the background galloping towards the sunset. I don't know what you're doing, but you look cool. So obviously, you get it. We have ways to prevent people from attacking us. And even if they do get through, well, that's the beauty of our Commander Angus. We just pay 3 and we can fog. And this is where this deck can get political. Is we can grant favors. Someone's about to die. Well, what can you do for me? I can spend 3 mana and save you. Let's prevent combat damage this turn. Now, obviously, with the hate we draw, we need ways of protecting our enchantments. And how do we protect them? Let me just tell you, more enchantments. Who would have known, right? But before we get into that, we must talk about how we even get these cards in the first place. Because there's no sense in protecting something that you don't have. And yes, that's right, we're talking about card draw in this segment. And I think you get the point by now. This is obviously an enchantment deck. So what better thing to pair this deck with other than Enchantresses to allow us to draw cards? That's right, we're going to pair this deck with Satyr Enchanter, Sithis Harvest Hand, Mesa Enchantress, Eidolon of Blossoms, Setestian Champion, Veteran Enchantress, Suvasa the Sunlets, Femerif Enchantress, Argothian Enchantress, and even Enchantress's Presence. All of which say very similar things. All you have to know is you play an enchantment, we're going to get a card back in our hand. And if we have multiple of these Enchantresses out on the field, let's say we've got 3 of them. For every 1 enchantment that you cast, you will draw 3 cards. And of course, this is only going to scale larger and harder with the more Enchantresses you have on board until the point that you hit critical mass and nobody can do a damn thing against you. So now that we have some sort of engine set up to draw through our deck, we can now talk about our protective combos. That's right, not just protective pieces. I'm not talking about Liline of Sanctity here, although it is great and it is included in the deck. We're talking about combo pieces, synergies between cards that will prevent our players at the table from even touching us or even considering it. Do you want people to pay overpriced taxes and punish them for attacking you? Well, so be it. For 5 mana, you can play Enchanted Evening, which states, all permanents are enchantments in addition to their other types, and pair that with a Sphere of Safety. For 4 colors and 1 white, this enchantment reads, creatures can attack you or planeswalker you control unless their controller plays X for each of those creatures, where X is the number of enchantments you control. Well, if everything on the board is an enchantment because of Enchanted Evening, and you control 10 enchantments, that's going to be 10 mana per creature attacking you. And this isn't to mention if you have any of the previous taxation effects on board. We can pair Rest in Peace, a 2 mana enchantment that says, when Rest in Peace enters the battlefield, exile all cards from all graveyards. If a card or token would be put in the graveyard from anywhere, exile instead, essentially replacing graveyards with exile, so cards won't even go to the graveyard anymore. Pair this with a Web of Inertia for 2 colors and 1 blue. This enchantment reads, at the beginning of each opponent's combat phase, that player may remove a card in his or her graveyard from the game. If the player doesn't, creatures he or she controls can attack you this turn. Now this is great paired with Rest in Peace, because if graveyards don't exist, they can't remove a creature from the graveyard. And if they can't remove a creature from the graveyard, forget the taxation, they just can't attack you. Another great synergy here, once again, paired with that Rest in Peace, is a 2-mana enchantment known as Energy Field. And Energy Field reads, prevent all damage dealt to you from sources you do not control. When a card is put into your graveyard, sacrifice Energy Field. And since Rest in Peace replaces graveyards with Exile instead, since no cards will be going to your graveyard ever, you're just going to prevent all damage dealt to you. Not just combat damage, but all damage, period. But what is all this great protection without protecting our protection? As mentioned prior, we're going to play a Sterling Grove for 1 green and 1 white. It says other enchantments you control have Shroud. Well, that's simple enough. But what happens if the Sterling Grove gets destroyed? Then our stuff no longer has Shroud. Well, then let's pair it with a Greater Oromancy for 1 colorless and 1 white. It says other enchantments you control have Shroud. Enchanted creatures you control have Shroud. So what this is going to do is Sterling Grove is going to give Shroud to Greater Oromancy, so you can't target Greater Oromancy. And Greater Oromancy is going to give Shroud to Sterling Grove, so you can't target that either. And what that does, it gives the Shroud producer's Shroud, and nobody can target any of your enchantments ever again, unless it's a mass removal that's non-targeted. Now, of course, it is harder to find 2 cards in the deck, so for further consistency, we did add a 5-mana enchantment known as Privileged Position that does the exact same thing but with hexproof. But then the question arises, what if we can't get these enchantments that give us protection? How else will we protect our permanents? Well, I'll tell you how we do it. We have an Avacyn Angel of Hope in the deck. For 5 colors and 3 white, this 8/8 Flying, Vigilance, and Indestructible Angel reads, other permanents you control have Indestructible. Well, you pair this with a Platinum Angel, and it's just a done deal. Nobody can destroy any of your permanents, and you can't lose the game. So unless somebody has a Cyclonic Rift, the chances of you losing the game are practically 0 at this point. And if that wasn't enough, let's just say we have our commander on board, Angus Mackenzie once again, You just tap them with 3 mana, you can fog the table. Well, let's abuse that with the friendlier version of Seedborn Muse, Awakening. And Awakening reads, for 2 colorless and 2 green, at the beginning of each player's upkeep, untap all creatures and lands. Note that it says upkeep and not untap. So essentially, you'll be able to get 2 untap steps if you're clever and you pay attention to the card's reading. But what this will do, it's going to allow you to fog every single turn with Angus Mackenzie to really abuse that fog on a creature stick. And nobody will ever be able to do combat damage again. Now, nobody's ever going to want to get rid of the Awakening because it's allowing them to untap and further their game plan in playing things and dumping more mana into stuff on opponents' turns. However, in the event that they do want to get rid of it, who says they can? If all of our enchantments have Shroud, how are they going to target it? Or if they don't have Shroud, it could be Indestructible from Avacyn. Or heck, it could be both Indestructible and have Shroud. What are they going to do then? Because I tell you what, I honestly, I would just scoop at that point. There's nothing that you could do. And in the odd event that they do have a counterspell, well, this deck's got counterspells too. It may not have a lot of counterspells, but we got counterspells. Don't use those counters, guys, on things that are useless towards us, okay? Use them in emergency situations, please. Now that that's out of the way, we can finally talk about our offensive combos, as if that already wasn't enough. Going back to Awakening, we pair this with a Lifeline of Anticipation for 2 colors and 2 blue, giving all of our spells flash, instant speed, all of our permanents, right? Well, if we can untap our lands on every player's upkeep because of the Awakening, and we can play everything at instant speed, if we do this whenever we have our card draw engine online, which is any one of our enchantresses, whenever we play an enchantment or a permanent onto the battlefield, furthering our lockdown and our protection on ourselves, we're going to be really feeling our hand. We're going to be playing on everybody's turn. It's going to get really convoluted, and it's going to snowball. Another one, once again, is Enchanted Evening, and we're going to utilize an Aura Thief. Now, Aura Thief is a 3 colors and 1 blue flying 2/2 creature. We don't care about any of that. All we care about is when he's put into the graveyard from play, we gain control of all enchantments. Now, since Enchanted Evening makes all permanent...
This means they're large enough to be able to handle human dicks. And with their
we're going to gain control of every player's permanents, including lands.
It's free real estate.
Now, of course, Aura Thief has to die. So we've got cards like High Market in the deck, or if someone swings out at you in retaliation, we can always chump block it and kill them. Of course, this will not work if the Rest in Peace is on board, because Rest in Peace does replace graveyards with exile. And with this combo alone, if we steal everybody's permanents, let's say they still do want to play the game. Well, if we have that Sphere of Safety out on board, and there's still 3 players, or 3 opponents, I should say, and we stole everything, it's going to cost like 40 to 50 mana per creature to attack us. And by then, are they really going to...
It's so dumb.
Oh, it's so dumb, it's brilliant.
No! It's just dumb.
It's just so fucking stupid. It's so stupid. It is so stupid. And you know, let's say they somehow get an infinite back online. They get an infinite mana generation so they can attack you with something. Something stupid. Okay, just fog. Like, that's all there is to it. Just fog. Sorry. And last but not least, we have our final offensive combo that utilizes 2 cards once again that share different synergies. And you haven't been able to tell already, this deck shares synergies so well that you're not always looking for different combo pieces. Yes, they will be based around different cards, but the core of the combo is always set up around the same card. So just because we don't have X, Y, and Z, as long as we have X, we might be able to make a different synergy happen that's just as good. And this synergy I'm talking about for our final offensive combo is our Avacyn Angel of Hope, as explained earlier, paired with an Enchanted Evening. Now, if we have everything's indestructible and everything is an enchantment, and we pair this with a Serenity, a 1 colorless and 1 white mana enchantment that reads, at the beginning of your upkeep, destroy all artifacts and enchantments. They cannot be regenerated. Well, if we have our Avacyn, everything of ours is indestructible, so it can't be destroyed. And if we have the Enchanted Evening out, everything is an enchantment. So what this is going to do is it's going to be a single-sided board wipe for only your opponents, and it's going to be on every single one of your upkeeps. It's going to be repeatable. So if you get this out, they will never be able to rebuild again. All of their lands, boom, gone. All of their creatures, boom, gone. Everything on the board will be destroyed every single time it gets to your upkeep. And I have one like that before, and am I a bad person for it? Absolutely not. It is so stylish. It is... I don't feel bad. I really don't feel bad. It's so brutal. It's not... Yeah, it's not a nice thing to do. But they have to know, if they're going to go up against this deck, and they're going to turn against a deck that's primarily peaceful and not aggro, there will be severe repercussions. However, none of this is going to mean a damn thing if we can't formally close out the game because our opponents have balls of steel and refuse to scoop even though they have 0 permanents left every single turn. I don't know why they don't scoop, but sometimes they don't, so we need a proper way to win. So the first win we have in this deck is once again Enchanted Evening paired with our Awakening. No need to explain these two, they should be quite familiar by now. Well, if you pair these two with a Helix Pinnacle for 1 green mana, Helix Pinnacle says Shroud and put X tower counters on Helix Pinnacle. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 100 more tower counters on Helix Pinnacle, you win the game. Now, the reason why we want to pair this with Enchanted Evening is because we have both Sarah's Sanctum and Sanctum Weaver in the deck. And since both cards care about how many enchantments we control and will be generating that much mana, we will essentially be tapping every single upkeep thanks to the Awakening and put EGOB's amount of mana into the Helix Pinnacle and getting to 100 tower counters quite easily without generating infinite mana. Next up, we have once again Rest in Peace, the Graveyard Replacement effect paired and synced with a 4 mana artifact known as Helm of Obedience with errated text that reads, pay X and tap for target opponent mills a card, then repeats this process until creature card or X cards have been put into the graveyard this way, whichever comes first. If 1 or more creature cards were put into the graveyard this way, sacrifice Helm of Obedience and put 1 of them into the battlefield under your control. X cannot be 0. Now, once again, since Rest in Peace replaces graveyards, the Helm of Obedience will take the top card of the deck and it will mill it trying to put it into the graveyard, which it will never go, and this will repeat until every card in a person's deck has been milled into exile. And last but not least, the final win con of the deck being the true Peace Through Preservance option for the Peacekeeper himself, Angus Mackenzie, Divine Intervention. This 6 colorless in 2 white enchantment reads: put the 2 counters on this card, remove a counter during your upkeep, and whenever you remove the last counter from Divine Intervention, the game is over and considered a draw. This is a great one to play if you've been politicking with one of the people at your pod and you want to bring the game home together, or perhaps let's say all of your win cons has been destroyed or milled out. You play this baby, be like, listen, if I can't win, nobody can win. Some people just like to watch the world burn, and this is an excellent card to do so. And just like that, that'll conclude today's deck tech. Now, it should be noted there are several cards that have not made it in this video just for the sake of time that are very synergistic, however, did not warrant their own section as they're more of standalone cards, such as Grand Abolisher. He just shuts down all counterplay on your turns, or Torpor Orb, canceling out ETBs. There are several cards like this, whether you want to cheat out creatures with a Defense of the Heart, or go big and stompy and swing out through the wind with Suvasa the Sunlit, or even a Destiny Spinner. If you'd like to see all these cards and more, I highly recommend checking out the full deck list and primer link down in the description below. And as mentioned in our previous video, our TCGPlayer store is now online. Just look up EDH Brutality or follow the link in the description below. If you're looking for all those Magic the Gathering singles, we may have something for you. But all that being said, if you'd like to stay tuned for more future videos here in this channel, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. And as always, my name is Patrick, host of EDH Brutality. I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And I'll see you in the next video. Happy Easter, guys. Peace out.